Hi everyone, Sarah here. In this video, I want to talk about something that many of my clients feel really nervous about. It's making small talk with their British colleagues. In fact, a one-to-one client was telling me, Sarah, I was in the kitchen, the office kitchen. I wanted to make a cup of coffee. I was standing there waiting for the kettle to boil. There was somebody else in the room. I didn't know them. And I didn't know what to say. I wanted to speak, but I wasn't sure what was okay to talk about, what was okay to ask. I was worried that I'd make mistakes and they wouldn't understand me. There was a lot going through his mind, making him feel stressed and nervous. If you've ever felt like this, then this is the video for you. So let's get started. Now, clients often ask me, Sarah, do I really need to make these conversations? It feels like a waste of time. In many countries, having these little conversations is seen as a waste of time. You'd rather get straight to the point and talk to people if you need to. But in the UK, small talk is important. Those little conversations that you have in the office kitchen or at the beginning of a meeting aren't just conversations to fill the awkward silence. In fact, they are the foundations of relationship building. Every time you have those little interactions, no matter how small, you're slowly building the relationship. And when you have lots of these conversations over time, you are strengthening the connections that you have with your colleagues. And when you have these strong connections, strong relationships, it makes your work life so much easier. If you're working on a project, it's so much easier to work together on that project. And when things go wrong, maybe there's a problem or a disagreement between the team, it's so much easier to resolve these when you've already built a good relationship. Before we start, remember, these conversations are not an English test. Your colleagues aren't there to criticize your English or to count the number of mistakes that you make. They want to talk to you too and to find out more about you. So always remember, it's about connection, not perfection. Now, the first question I always get asked is, what do I talk about? Well, here are 5 topics that usually go down well in British workplaces. Number 1, you guessed it, it's the weather. Now, I know it sounds a cliche that British people talk about the weather all the time, but there's a reason they do, and it's because it works. We might not ask a question directly, like what's the weather like today, but you might comment on it and add a little tag question. For example, it's cold today, isn't it? Or it's been raining for days, hasn't it? When you have a comment and a little tag question, it's like a little invitation to connect. The other person might say, yes, it is, and carry on. And that's okay, let them get on with the day. But they might also carry on the conversation. And this can open up into a deeper conversation. The second topic that usually works is talking about your plans. You might ask somebody, what are your plans for the weekend? Or what are you up to this weekend? You can start asking this question from Thursday. On Monday and maybe even Tuesday, you could ask, did you have a nice weekend? Or what did you get up to at the weekend? These questions show interest, but also open up the conversation naturally. 3, you can talk about your commute to work. Were the trains busy this morning? Or the train was late again, wasn't it? You may have noticed from the examples so far that sometimes we like to complain. Usually these are mini complaints about the weather or about traffic. It's often a way that we bond with each other is through a little complaint. Number 4 is food. Now, this could work when you're in the office kitchen. Maybe you could comment on your food, or maybe you could ask somebody about their food. That smells delicious. What have you got today? You could also ask about places nearby to eat. Have you ever tried the cafe down the street for lunch? Food is a nice neutral topic that can start the conversation and open it up naturally. Number 5 is commenting on a shared experience or shared knowledge. Now, I always say that the purpose of small talk is really to find something in common. When you find something in common that you can talk about more, this makes everyone feel a lot calmer and the conversation goes more naturally. So if you start by commenting on something that you share, you build that connection more quickly. Let's imagine there's a new coffee machine at work. Have you tried the coffee machine yet? Or maybe you're working on a project together. This new project's interesting. How's it going? As I mentioned before, building that relationship starts with finding something in common. Make a conversation about a shared experience. It's a lot easier to do this. Okay, let's look at an example. It's cold today, isn't it? It is. I rode in on my bike this morning and it was absolutely freezing. But it's supposed to be a little bit nicer this weekend, I think. Oh, is it? Do you have any plans for the weekend? Actually, I'm going cycling in the Peak District with a friend. Oh, really? I love cycling too. In fact, I went on a cycling holiday to Spain last year. Did you? You'll have to tell me all about it the next time I see you. How simple was that? No complex grammar needed, no deep conversation required, just a small moment of connection with your colleague. And when you have more of these little conversations, over time, it's going to build that stronger connection. Now, to help you start those conversations, here's a simple 3-step formula for you to remember. Step 1, start with an observation. Your office is quiet today. Then follow up with a question. Are the rest of your team working from home? And finally, share something small about yourself. When you share something small about yourself, the other person may feel more comfortable to share about themselves, and so the conversation continues. For example, I'm hoping to catch up on my emails while it's quiet. Whatever the topic, remember this formula. Make an observation, ask a question, share something small about yourself. Now, here are some tips to remember to avoid any awkward situations. First, avoid serious topics like politics or religion. You want to start these conversations with something light, like the weather or food or a shared experience at work. When you first get to know someone, avoid asking about personal topics like their family or their marital status. Now, if you want to talk about your family, that's fine. And when you share something about your family, maybe they will share something about their family. But don't ask them directly, especially if you don't know that person that well. The more you have these conversations, the more people will open up and share. And finally, do make sure that you observe people's body language. Sometimes if people turn away or they just answer your question with one word, it means they don't really want to speak. And that's okay. We all have those days where we can't really be bothered to make conversation or talk to anybody. Don't take it personally. Just move on and find somebody else to speak to. And here's a challenge for you. This week, try to make small talk with as many people as possible. If the conversation doesn't go beyond, it's cold today, isn't it? Yes, it is. Don't worry. As I said, don't take it personally. Just move on and speak to the next person. With time and practice, it will feel so much more natural, and you may even begin to enjoy having these small talk conversations because they are the gateway to these deeper conversations and they start to build relationships. Thanks for listening. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on the next video.